Money is the underlying motif of this event-filled episode. Chasing it, laundering it, suing over it. Money is a problem for Mike, an avenue of revenge for Chuck, and a source of joyful salvation for Jimmy. It has horrible consequences for poor Irene, who, thanks to the nefarious scheming of the younger McGill, the man-rigged bingo, is shunned by her friends. All she wants is bigger checks for the class action lawsuit that she leads. Instead, she gets the cold shoulder and a new pair of sneakers. Cruel world, huh? Exactly what we should make of Jimmy's manipulation of the sandpiper suit comes down to the wisdom of his advice. He thinks the class should settle now while Irene and her fellow seniors can enjoy the money rather than hold out for more. Jimmy's approach makes intuitive sense, but we don't know how close Sandpiper is to upping its offer, or how much the offer might ultimately increase. Howard Hamlin presumably does, and he is withering when Jimmy urges him, during a meeting in an underground garage, to take the money and sign. Comparing Jimmy to Gollum is a bit excessive, but I'm not willing to say that Howard is wrong. Jimmy is desperate, and his need for quick cash might be clouding his judgment. In an earlier version, I had it as Golem, from Hebrew folklore, but commentators are saying that Howard refers to Gollum, from The Lord of the Rings. That seems right to me given that Howard is calling Jimmy a greedy weasel, not a monster. Certainly, the way that Jimmy engineers Irene's capitulation is underhanded and inexcusable. It's the sort of behavior that in other shows is ultimately punished, but in the universe as conceived by Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, the sinners rarely suffer for their sins. Their loved ones do. And that is my best guess as to why the sleep-deprived Kim winds up staggering out of a solo car crash at the end of this episode. Payback is a bitch in Better Call Saul, but the indiscriminate sort. Kim might have overstretched herself by taking on the Gatwood oil case, as Paige from Mesa Verde warned, but that hardly justifies the pain inflicted by the story gods when she drives off the road and collides face first with her airbag. Similarly, it looks increasingly as though Nacho's father, rather than Nacho, will suffer for Nacho's work with the cartel. The scene in which the compromised son pleads with the principled father, "Let Don Hector Salamanca run your upholstery shop for a while, and don't make trouble," is an emotional highlight in an episode that was mostly about callousness and calculation. The only ray of hope for Nacho is that his pill-switch plan to kill Salamanca will soon work. But the plan has flaws as evidenced in the brief scene in which the Don appears, fuming over phoned-in orders from Mexico to continue using Gus Fring's transportation network of trucks. Salamanca has an attack of whatever ails him and cures himself by taking some kind of medicine. It may be a different medicine or from a different bottle. Perhaps the attack simply passes on its own. In any case, he's still standing. Nacho might need a plan B. Back to money. It ruptures Chuck's relationship with the law firm he helped found, Hamlin and McGill, when malpractice insurers show up to hike rates at the firm. Chuck threatens litigation, prompting Howard to suggest that Chuck retire, teach and write that long-discussed book about the Commerce Clause. I smell a bestseller. This is a major miscalculation and far beneath Howard's usual standards of diplomacy. The letter Chuck soon sends is the opening salvo in a coming legal war. For a moment I thought that maybe Jimmy and Chuck would unite in common cause against HM, and maybe that will happen if it turns out the Sandpiper case isn't actually being settled. We have only Jimmy's word and that splurgy bottle of tequila to tell us that the deal is done. He might be wrong about that. As was true with regard to the next-to-last episodes of earlier seasons of Better Call Saul, I find myself unsure where the plot is heading. I don't mean that the story lacks options. Plenty is happening. I could list 10 things that might occur next week, many of them riveting. Editor's picks: how rhubarb conquered Germany, then the world, Notre Dame rises again, in Lego. After 100 years of pizza, the future of Totanos is in question. I just mean that I don't have any sense that we are headed for a particular crescendo, that some specific element of suspense hangs before us, demanding we return to see how it's resolved. In short, this felt like a mid-season show, not a penultimate one. It was a delight to watch Lydia, Laura Fraser, meet Mike in the offices of Madrigal Electromotive, largely because we know that Mike will come to loathe and nearly kill Lydia in Breaking Bad. He is thoroughly uncharmed by her from the get-go. This first meeting might be the highlight of their relationship.